So I was saying that Capitol Hill got a double blessing this year because we blessed the Christmas tree. Da, 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 da. But today, His Holiness, they really got it. He opened the Senate with a prayer. I thought they weren't supposed to have prayers in government things.
They always do.
They always do. They have a chaplain that comes.
Yeah, they have a chaplain. Maybe it's probably the first time a Buddhist ever did something. Okay. So I'll read to you. Yeah, she has the whole thing here. Thank you. What His Holiness said. So you just have to pretend. Okay. Firstly, as usual, I am a Buddhist monk. So pray to Buddha and all other gods. Then he said something in Tibetan. The first sentence I'll read. Now my broken English. The pronunciation may not be correct, at least not American pronunciation. With our thoughts, we make our world. Yeah? Our mind is central and precedes our deeds. This is from the Dharmapada. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow you like a shadow that never leaves. The second sentence. May there be joy in the world with harvest and spiritual rest. I think it should be spiritual prosperity. And I think it's the second verse. He's saying, may every good fortune come to be, and may all our wishes be fulfilled. Now this is my favorite prayer. Daily I pray this. That gives me inner strength. So I'm asking to serve humanity. As long as space remains, and as long as sentient beings remain, until then too, may I remain and help dispel the misery of the world. Thank you. Then it says, after the prayer, the Dalai Lama watched on as senators recited the Pledge of Allegiance. I know I speak for the entire Senate family when I express our gratitude for the prayer in the Senate and his words of encouragement and his blessing, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid said. May Ted Cruz have good dreams tonight, and Mitch McConnell have visions of the Buddha, and both of them think of benefiting sentient beings. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. So, may we too have that kind of motivation. And just as His Holiness, with no fear, no hesitation, said it right out there in front of a bunch of people who aren't Buddhist, who probably think, don't even know where Tibet is. And he's totally fearless, Then may we say what needs to be said without fear or hesitation, when we're speaking words of kindness and compassion to whoever it is so we can benefit them. Yeah? So the next job is to go to an NRA meeting. Yeah? For as long as space endures and as long as sentient beings remain, so too may I remain to dispel the misery of the world. And so let's not have guns which cause misery. Okay. So, there's some questions. So I have a feeling the questions are going to turn into the whole class tonight, but we'll see. Okay, so the question, apparently some of you were having a discussion about last week's class, and you were talking through the difference between the appearance of a self-sufficient, substantially existent person and the appearance of an inherently existent one. And the question came up, where is the self-cherishing thought in all of this? Here! Me! Okay. So where is the self-cherishing thought? So actually, don't say self-cherishing. It's a bad translation. I keep on telling you this, but you always trust what you read in a book more than you trust oral teachings. Don't you? Because you keep saying self-cherishing.
I think it's more that that's what we first heard years ago, and that's what has stayed with us.
Yeah. Because we should cherish ourselves. We're a worthwhile sentient being. We should cherish ourselves. Being self-centered is another thing. Being self-preoccupied is another thing. Okay? Those are quite different, but we are a sentient being, and we want to cherish all sentient beings. And we cherish ourselves by wanting to get out of samsara. Okay? So, where is the self-centered thought? So, I thought I would read you a little dialogue. One of my Dharma friends went to ask a geshe this question. It's a popular question. Okay? So she said, if it's something, she was very clever. She said, if it's something to be abandoned on the path, is it necessarily either an afflictive obscuration or a cognitive obscuration? The geshe said, yes. And then she said, then what is the self-centered thought? Is it an afflictive obscuration or a cognitive obscuration? And the geshe said, it's neither. Okay, but on the Mahayana path, it is an object to be abandoned. Okay? So it's not an afflictive obscuration, it's not a cognitive obscuration, but on the Mahayana path, you still have to abandon it. Okay, if you're doing the Sravaka path, the hearer path, the solitary realizer path, you don't have to abandon it. Okay, but there's different levels of self-centeredness, so don't get confused here. Okay, so on the Mahayana path, it's an object to be abandoned. In general, the wish to attain liberation for oneself is not an object of abandonment. Okay? So just in general, when you're talking on the path, the wish to attain liberation for yourself is not an object to be abandoned. Yeah? Because everybody wants to attain liberation. Yeah, and it's a virtuous motivation, isn't it? You know, when we look at the three levels of capacities of sentient beings, it's the second level. So how can you say a Dharma motivation is, to be abandoned? So in general, it's not to be abandoned. Okay, but on the Mahayana path, it is an object to be abandoned. Okay. And he said, because it's mixed with attachment. And here I think what is meant is not the ordinary attachment that we have, because arhats don't have that, but it's mixed with bias and the self-centeredness whereby my liberation becomes more important than others' liberation. Because remember, self-centeredness is thinking me, I, my, and mine is more important than others, okay? So the self-centered thought is not an object to be abandoned just because it cherishes the self. Okay? Yeah? Just because it cherishes the self, that's not the reason to abandon it. Because an arhat who is free of ignorance, anger, and attachment cherishes, the arhats cherish themselves. They want to be out of cyclic existence. They got themselves out of cyclic existence. That's fantastic. Okay? So it's, yeah, but it is mixed with that partiality that is favored, that is skewed towards myself. Okay? And then she said, but arhats have self-centered thought, but they don't have attachment. And he said, true. But self-centered thought isn't necessarily mixed with attachment. Okay? At our level, the level of ordinary beings, pretty much our self-centered attachment, our self-centered thought is mixed with attachment. Okay? But for, Aryas on the here in solitary realizer path, yeah, or arhats, their self-centeredness isn't going to be mixed with the kind of gross attachment that we have. Okay, so here you see two levels of self-centeredness. One is, I want my bubble gum, and I want my iPod, and I want my medal at Sochi, and I want. And that's a very gross kind of self-centeredness that's very, mixed in with attachment. And then there's a subtle self-centeredness that is, I want to be liberated from samsara, and that is more important than the liberation of other living beings. Okay? So that's a much subtler level of self-centeredness than what we have, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay? So the mind wanting to attain liberation for oneself alone is not an object of abandonment in general, but for the Mahayana it is. Okay? You got it? So then she said, what's the definition of self-centeredness? And he said, a mind that considers oneself to be very important. I would say most important. And then she said, but how can arhats have it since they've realized emptiness and no longer have a sense of self? Okay. And he said, self-grasping. Okay, that's the self-grasping ignorance, the one that superimposes inherent existence on the self, on the I. So self-grasping is like a teacher, and self-centered thought is like a student of that teacher. Okay? Arhats have abandoned self-grasping. But when they're hungry and they want to eat or want to put on clothes, what is their motivation? Is it for the sake of all sentient beings? Yeah? No. Okay? It's not for the sake of all sentient beings, but it's also not with the kind of attachment we have to our clothes or our food or whatever. But it's just on the Mahayana path, you train your mind so that everything you do for the benefit of sentient beings. Whereas an arhat might do those same actions, but without that motivation. And so not accumulating that great merit that a bodhisattva would. And not having the same result as a Buddha has, because of missing that thing of whatever you do for the benefit of all living beings. Okay? So
it's a mind, Venerable? It's a consciousness thing.
Well, of the three things, form, consciousness, and abstract composite, it's not form, and I don't think it's an abstract composite. Okay? So I would say it's a consciousness. Okay?
Nobody ever says that outright.
No, nobody ever says it outright.
Never say that.
No. I don't know if they would never say that, but I've never heard them say that. Because if you say outright it's a consciousness, then I think you're more in that thing of what kind of,
Wisdom eliminates it.
Yeah. Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, one thing that where people get confused sometimes between self-grasping and self-centeredness. When we're talking about self-grasping ignorance, whether we're grasping at a self-sufficient, substantially existent person, or grasping at an inherently existent person, or inherently existent phenomena, or whatever it is, that grasping is concerned with the mode of existence, how something exists. And it's superimposing a mode of existence on top of the person or on top of on top of phenomena that those things don't have. Okay, so it's skewing our perception of the ultimate nature by making us think the mode of existence is something other than what it actually is. Whereas self-centered thought, we don't talk about it as superimposing a mode of existence. Okay? Self-centered thought is just, I am more important than anybody else. Yeah, my suffering hurts more. My happiness is more critical. Yeah? So self-centered thought is not concerned with the mode of existence of things. Yeah, self-centered thought is not projecting a mode of existence, whereas ignorance, self-grasping, is. Okay? So it's a big difference between them. And that's why, in the afflictive obscurations, that, when they're removed, you've eliminated all the self-grasping. And then the cognitive obscurations, you've eliminated the latencies of the self-grasping. Okay? And they say, for self-centeredness, it's been eliminated before the 8th Bodhisattva Bhumi. But on the 8th Bodhisattva Bhumi, the latencies or stains of the self-centered thought have been eliminated.
Have not.
Have been.
Or the stains have been.
No, the self-centered thought has been eliminated before the 8th Bhumi, but the latencies of the self-centered thought are eliminated at the 8th Bhumi. Okay? Okay, because at the 8th Bhumi, self-centered thought, I would think just the initial bodhisattvas, to some extent or another, maybe by the middle path of accumulation, because at that point you can no longer lose your bodhicitta, that maybe that's the point where you've eliminated your self-centeredness. Yeah, but the latencies that are still, are eliminated, are eliminated on the 8th Bhumi. The 8th Bhumi is also where somebody who has entered the bodhisattva path freshly, it's on the 8th Bhumi where they have eliminated all of the afflictive obscurations. Because until that point, on the first 7 Bhumis, they've been eliminating the different levels of afflictive obscurations. On the 8th Bhumi, they've eliminated all of the afflictive obscurations. Yeah, so you can see that somehow, having eliminated the self-grasping totally, then you're free of the latencies of the self-centered thought. Okay? That's for the bodhisattvas, though. But for the arhats, they've eliminated the afflictive obscurations, but they still have the self-centered thought. Because, they haven't been training their mind this whole time like the bodhisattvas have in doing everything for the benefit of sentient beings and aiming for highest full awakening for that purpose. Okay? Then you had another question. Now that we found the self-centered thought, you were wondering where it was. We found it. Okay, so then you were also thinking about this section in His Holiness's book, The Meaning of Life. And so I thought I would read it and explain it as we go. Because you said, it seems that His Holiness's very clear description of the steps to grasping something as mine parallels what's happening with the self-centered thought. Actually, the grasping at mine has happened already. Yeah, in this. But let's go through it, because it's kind of it's quite interesting what he said. Okay, so he said, in our own experience, we can identify types or levels of desire. For desire, Jeffrey means attachment. Okay, I don't use the word desire because sometimes desire in English can be something good. You know, you have a desire to become a Buddha, so I prefer saying attachment. When we see a certain article in a store and have a desire for it, that constitutes an initial type of desire. But after we buy it and feel this is mine, this is a different level, isn't it? They are similar in both being attitudes of desire, but they differ in strength. Okay. It is important to distinguish three levels of appearance and apprehension. Okay, at the first level, apprehension is the same Tibetan word as grasping. Okay. In the first level, when mere appearance and mere recognition of the object occur, the object merely appears without generating desire. Okay? So you see something. This is a cup. Yeah? That is a mind that is apprehending the cup without seeing it as inherently existent and without seeing it as non-inherently existent. Okay, because there's three ways of apprehending things: as inherently existent, as non-inherently existent, and as neither. Okay, so it's the neither one. It's just there's a cup. So the object's still appearing inherently existent, but you're not grasping at it as. Then when we feel, oh, this is really good, and desire has been generated, this is another level of appearance and apprehension of the object, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, this is really nice. You know, all of a sudden, you know, the object looks different to you instead of there's a cup. It's like, oh, there's a nice cup. I have a nice feeling in me. Okay. Upon deciding to buy the article and making it our own, cherishing it as our own, there is a third level of appearance and apprehension. My cup. Do you like my cup? Yeah. Do you have a cup that's nice like this? I have such a lovely cup. Isn't it beautiful? My best friend gave it to me. I have such wonderful best friends. Do you have such good friends like I have? Isn't this cup lovely? Okay, so there's different levels there, okay? So on the first level, which consists of the mere appearance of the object does seem to exist inherently. However, the mind is not strongly involved with the object. We're not assenting to that appearance of inherent existence by grasping at it, okay? On the second level, desire for the object is induced by ignorance that apprehends it as existing inherently. So on the second level, you have the ignorance that's grasping the object as truly existent. And from that, the desire or the attachment to the object is coming. First, before the attachment, you have the inappropriate attention. Okay. Then His Holiness just kind of explains here, this is a very interesting point. There is a subtle level of desire that can exist at the same time as this consciousness. Okay, that's this consciousness that conceives the object to exist inherently. Okay, but when desire becomes stronger, the conception of inherent existence acts as its cause, inducing still more desire, but does not exist at exactly the same time as the desire. It is crucial to realize from your own experience that, but let's get this level. So there's two kinds of desire, okay? There's one level of desire that exists at the same time as the self-grasping ignorance. Okay? This is a level of desire that only the Prasangika Madhyamikas talk about, because all other schools say that things are inherently existent. So having desire together with grasping an inherent existence, for those schools is normal, you know? They wouldn't see that as a desire to, as desire that's an affliction. Okay, so this has got to be a very subtle kind of desire, because even people who have seen that there's no self-sufficient, substantially existent self, they've realized that there's not that kind of self, they'll still have this kind of desire that's together with the self-grasping happening at the same time. And what His Holiness has said before is that it's a desire that is grasping the object as inherently attractive. Or if it's anger, it's an anger that is grasping the object as inherently, disturbing, or whatever it is. Okay, so that the grasping at the inherent existence and then either the attachment or the desire are together. But that's very, very subtle. Okay? But then he said, but when desire becomes stronger, the conception of inherent existence acts as its cause. What's happening there is that you have the grasping at inherent existence that is giving rise to the grasping at the self-sufficient, substantially existent person. And then, out of all of that, comes desire for, this is my cup, and this is mine, and I want this, and this is beautiful, and that's ugly, and give me this, and get that away from me. And all this kind of very gross kind of attachment and desire that we have. Okay, so at that time, that very gross attachment and desire is not concurrent with the ignorance, the self-grasping ignorance. First you have the ignorance, then the grasping at the self-sufficient, substantially existent person, then the affliction, or then the inappropriate attention, then the affliction. Okay, but it all happens very, very fast. And it's hard for us to even identify these steps. Yeah, but we can get the difference between just, there's a cup, and then, that's a pretty cup, and this is my cup. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, there's that blanket, Okay. That's a beautiful blanket. That's my blanket. Yeah. And then when you have to change rooms at the Abbey and you can't take your blanket with you, you're disturbed. That's my blanket, my beautiful blanket. I've got to take it with me to my new room. I can't leave it behind for the next person because they're not going to treat it right. Yeah, only I know how to take care of my blankie. Okay? So it's crucial to realize from your own experience that on the first level, there is the appearance of the object as inherently existent, which we don't even recognize. On the second level, there's a consciousness that assents to this appearance, apprehending or grasping the object as inherently existent, and thus giving rise to desire. And then on the third level, when we have bought such an inherently pleasing object and make it our own, the object becomes involved with a strong conception of ownership in which we consider it to be extremely valuable. Yeah? And we can see that, can't we? Yeah? And, I always give the example of the car on the, in the showroom. Oh, there's that car. Oh, there's that really nice car. Gee, I wonder if I can buy it. If it gets dented while it still belongs, on the showroom floor, if it gets dented there, I say, oh, that's a really beautiful car. It got dented, but that's okay. I want to buy it, but I just won't get that one. Somebody else has to bear the cost of having a dented car. But once it's mine, if it gets dented, then I'm very upset. Okay, so you can see this on the third level too. That's when miserliness comes in and stinginess. Yeah. On the second level, when we're still desiring it, but it isn't ours, if it gets ruined or something, we're a little disappointed, but we'll just get another one. Yeah. And on the second level, if they sell it to somebody else before it's sold to us, oh, I wanted it, but you have many more, you'll sell me another one. It's not a big deal. But when it's mine, then the miserliness comes in. I don't want to let anybody else drive my car. Yeah. Nobody else can use my blanket. Nobody else can walk on my rug. Yeah. Nobody else can sit on my beautiful bedspread. Yeah. Nobody else can do whatever it is. Yeah. This is mine. Okay, at this end of the process, two very powerful streams of adherence. Attachment for the inherently pleasant object and attachment for oneself. So the jigta plus the desire from the object have come together, making the desire even greater than before. Reflect on whether or not this is so. So it's interesting, at that point when we possess it, it's not just attachment to that, but the attachment to oneself is big too. I have that. That is mine. It does make it pretty powerful, doesn't it? Yeah. And yet, all that is just merely labeled. The whole pronoun mine. No, mine isn't a pronoun. My is a pronoun. Mine is a what? This is mine.
Possessive pronoun.
It's a possessive pronoun? No, his, her.
It's a possessive adjective.
No, I think it's an adjective. This is mine. It's not a pronoun. It's an adjective. My is a possessive pronoun. A pronoun. Yeah. Okay. Mrs. Sloan.
Sister Gertrude.
Okay. The same is true of anger or hatred. There's an initial experience involving a conventionally valid perception of the qualities of an object. And here he says, for instance, seeing something bad and identifying it as bad. To me, bad is much more of a judgment call. I don't think in English that works so well, because already there's a lot of subjectivity to bad, but it's more just seeing what the quality is that the object has. Yeah? Oh, that cloth is dirty. Yeah, whatever it is, okay? Then one produces hatred upon saying, oh, this is really bad. This cloth is really dirty. I don't want it in my room. That's the second level. And then when hatred is related to oneself, actually, that's when it's like, it's stronger. And when it is seen as potentially bringing harm to oneself, even stronger hatred develops. Oh, that's really dirty. It's going to make me sick. It's going to destroy how beautiful my room is. Get it out of here. Okay? Thus, the ignorance that is the conception of inherent existence acts to assist both desire and hatred. In this way, the cause of all this trouble is the pig, because he's explaining the wheel of life and the three animals in the center. The pig is ignorance, the snake is anger, and the chicken is attachment. And then in this way, the cause of all this trouble is the pig. And in the Tibetan calendar, the year of my birth is the year of the pig. Okay. So, then, I thought I should talk a little bit more about this thing of mind, because you had brought this up. Okay, and we finish those two. Okay, so when we talk about jigta, the view of the personal identity or view of the perishing aggregates, okay, it grasps I and mine, our own I and mine, as inherently existent. Okay, so jigta is a branch of the self-grasping at persons. Self-grasping at persons includes grasping at any person as inherently existent, but jigta refers only to grasping me, okay, as inherently existent. And you can see why, because grasping ourselves as inherently existent has much more power and force and influence in our lives than grasping other people as inherently existent. Okay? So I refers to the person, while mine refers principally to the sense of mine. Okay? So in the Galupa tradition, they have so many debates about what the mine is. Okay? Because mine it's a funny word. If you say, what is mine? Then the people will say, this is mine, and this is mine, and this is mine. Yeah, just in normal language. But this and this and this are not persons, so they can't be the observed object of a view of a personal identity, because the observed object of the view of the personal identity, at least according to the Prasangikas, is the mere I. So you can't say this and this and this are mine, the mine that we're referring to in the view of the personal identity, because these are phenomena, and apprehending them as truly, as inherently existent, is apprehending the self of phenomena. Seeing them as empty is the selflessness of phenomena, whereas seeing the I and mine as empty is the selflessness of the person. Okay, so mine has to refer to the general sense of ownership. Or I sometimes think of it as like the one who owns. Yeah, not that there's two I's in there, one I and then the I that owns, but they say I and mine. So just the sense of mine, the one who owns. Yeah, it's interesting. I asked one of my Theravada friends about this, and they don't have any kind of long discussions about what is the mind. He said they just kind of take it as what more normally people refer to as mind. Yeah, so I found that interesting. Okay, so the I and mine are one entity. Yeah, they're one entity. Because it's not like there's two persons in there, or two kinds of grasping. So they're one entity, but different isolates. They're nominally different. Okay? So remember, we have a lot of things that are one entity and different isolates. Our aggregates are examples of mind, and grasping them to be truly existent is grasping the self of phenomena, not of persons. Okay? The aggregates are not the focal object of the grasping at my or mine, because that must be a person, since the view of a personal identity that grasps at my or mine is a self-grasping of persons. Okay? So how does the grasping at mine as inherently existent arise? First is apprehending the aggregates. Okay, here the aggregates are both the focal object and the apprehended object. Yeah? So you apprehend the aggregates on the basis of the aggregates. Here it said, second is viewing the aggregates as mine. Yeah. Here the aggregates are the focal object and mine is the apprehended object. I think maybe the aggregates are the focal object and mine is the aspect of that consciousness. Maybe we shouldn't get into that part. Okay? So we have the object, the aggregates, and the aspect of that cognizer, seeing it as mine. Third is grasping at mine as truly existent. Here the mine is focal object, and inherently existent mine is the apprehended object of the view of a personal identity grasping mine. Okay, grasping at mine implicitly grasps the I. Okay, the view of the personal identity grasping mine arises in relation to things that belong to us, our body, mind, and so forth. However, these are not its focal object or observed object. Okay, it focuses only on the sense of mind, the feeling of mineness or ownership, not on the things that are mine. Oh, here, technically speaking, mine is neither a person nor a phenomena. It is just the sense of mine. Okay, however, implicit in thinking mine is the notion of a person. For that reason, grasping at mine as inherently existent is part of the view of a personal identity. So that's interesting. Technically speaking, mine is neither a person nor a phenomena. Yeah. But because, you can't say mine without thinking I, can you? Mind doesn't come into being unless there's I. So therefore, it's put in as a grasping at mine is as inherently existent as part of the view of a personal identity. The body, mind, and so forth are illustrations of mine, but they are not the mind that is the focal object of the view of the personal identity. Okay, the focal object is just the general sense of mine. Okay, grasping at the inherent existence of the body and mind is grasping at the inherent existence of phenomena. Yeah. So a lot of this is repetitive, whereas grasping at mine is part of grasping at the inherent existence of persons. Okay. So then there was one other thing, where was it? So the view of the personal identity can manifest either as grasping at I or as grasping at mine. But the grasping at mine implicitly grasps at the I. Okay? So grasping at mine initially arises in relationships to things that belong to us, our body and mind. But the view of the personal identity does not take these objects to be their focus or their observed object. Jikta focuses only on mine, not on the objects which are mine. Okay? Yeah? There's a difference, isn't there? Between focusing on mine, this is mine, and focusing on this. You know, they're two different things, aren't they? Okay, mine is an attribute. It is not a person. But you can't grasp at something as mine without bringing in the person, because mine is a what did we say? It was a. Did we say it was an adjective, a possessive adjective? Yeah. So it has implicit in it the notion of a person. Okay, so the aggregates are not the focal object, the observed object of the view of a personal identity apprehending mine. Only the general sense of mine is. Okay? But that general sense of mine, it's a strange thing, isn't it? It's really strong. This is my, or this is mine, that's so strong in us. Yeah, I think when they say the terrible twos, with little kids, that's when the awareness of mine becomes so strong. What is mine and what is other, and mine. And how much the idea of mine runs our life, doesn't it?
That's the cause of all of our afflictions.
Yeah.
A lot of, why do we get angry, why do we get attached, why do we get afraid?
Yeah. Well, that's why they say, when they say what is the root of cyclic existence, sometimes they say the view of a personal identity, sometimes they say self-grasping ignorance. Now, is somebody going to say, well, there's two roots of cyclic existence? No, there's only one root, but both of them have the same mode of apprehension. They're holding at inherent existence. Okay, and you have both of them together. So, you're not going to have just the grasping at I as inherently existent without having the grasping at the aggregates and other things as inherently existent. Yeah, they all go together. So there's only one root of cyclic existence. But when we look, what is most damaging? Grasping the glasses as inherently existent, or grasping myself as inherently existent? What's more damaging? Grasping myself, yeah, because I make out of this, some solid thing there that has to be protected at all costs, that has to be happy, that can never suffer, and that's where the self-centeredness comes in, as that is the most important thing in the world. Yeah, that my ignorance has invented and believes in is now the most important thing in the world. Okay?
And the my happiness part, that relationship to the mind is an interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the my and mine and self-centered and yeah, you can see where they definitely fit in, don't they? Okay. Now, one person wrote in, and he was talking about an exercise that he found very interesting. He called it a mindfulness exercise, which is, to not use any pronouns like I, my, or mine, and see how that changes how you relate to things. Okay? So instead of, did you see my glasses? Yeah, which I'm always saying. Did you see, the wire rim glasses? Or did you see the glasses with the little yellow bit here? Yeah. Instead of saying, did you see my glasses? Or where is my food? How would you say that without using, yeah. Or is there enough left for me? Yeah, how would you say that without using me or mine in it?
Is there enough left?
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah, is there enough food for everybody? That has a very different feeling than saying, is there anything left for me? Doesn't it? Is there enough food for everybody? Feels different.
Feels better.
Huh?
It feels better.
It does feel better, doesn't it? Yeah, because there's an awareness of everybody in there. Yeah. So do you think we should try it, maybe for a week? And I mean, we're in silence, so hopefully it won't be too difficult tonight. But the way we're keeping silence, it might be. The silence hasn't started yet? Okay. Yeah.
Been quiet.
Good.
Yeah.
I think.
Huh?
I think we've been doing quite well.
Yeah.
I think there's differences of opinion.
Yeah, well, everybody talks to you because you're in the office. So.
Well,
Or you're maybe.
my office.
Yes. Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? My computer, my office.
How would you say that to discern what you use, what someone uses, and what you don't, what that person
Yeah.
doesn't use? How to say that without,
Describe it, right?
Yeah.
just to describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hewlett Packard.
Can I use the Hewlett Packard in the room down the hall?
Yeah, exactly. Because, and actually that would help us because none of these computers belong to us. They all belong to the Abbey. Yeah.
Give them names like you've done with vehicles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've given our vehicles names. We should give our computer names. Jerk. Problem, dysfunctional.
Failure.
What?
Failure.
Failure, yeah.
Well, my computer doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Psychotic, you know, moody.
Aggressive.
What?
Passive aggressive.
Aggressive. Yes, I have a passive aggressive computer.
Slow-mo.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, it would actually be quite good to see that. Yeah. Yeah, instead of I'm going to my room, I'm going to the last room down the hall. Huh?
The rooms here, some of them have names. Right, mindfulness.
Yeah.
Concentration.
Yeah, we do have names for many of our rooms. We never look at them and remember them. Yeah.
I remember computer names. So it
We're
slows
all going
down.
to sleep in the upper room tonight.
Yeah. Well, we remember the names of the cars.
Yeah.
That's the names of people.
Yeah. We are.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But it does. It changes things a lot. So we can try that as an experiment. Okay. So we didn't do any verses today. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
Well, a couple, but one from what you were going over in the first question on self-centered thought. So I'm wondering about certain passages from the scriptures where it really seems to blend the two of self-grasping and self-centered thought more. Like Aryadeva, he says if you do not equalize and exchange yourself for others, you will not, attain happiness even even in this life.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, so there's a lot of things where Shantideva, you gave the example, he says if you don't equalize yourself and others, you won't attain happiness even in this life. Or in the Lama Chupa, there's a verse about how the self-centeredness is the root of all suffering, isn't it?
And then there's a verse that says if you realize selflessness, then that that produces great compassion or something like that. Not from Shantideva, or maybe
find that verse.
Yeah, it might have been from His Holiness himself or something, but it was.
Yeah, so you find it. So I think that in those kinds of things, when they talk about the self-centered thought being they'll say it's the root of all of our problems, of all of our suffering. It's talking there more. What's the what?
In a general sense?
Or a motivating way?
Yeah, or more, because it's really the self-grasping that's the source of all the, and everything. But, if you're talking to somebody who's on a bodhisattva path, then the self-centered thought is a very big problem for that person. Because if you want to be on the bodhisattva path, your self-centered thought is one of the chief things keeping you from being on the bodhisattva path. You can still have self-grasping and be on the bodhisattva path, but you can't enter the bodhisattva path of accumulation, or path of preparation, if you still have very strong self-centeredness. Okay.
And I think this came up in maybe Mind Training like Rays of the Sun, where he also said, starts out with the self-centered thought as the root of all of our suffering, and then we talked about it's the sequence of the presentation too. Like in that sense, because Bodhicitta is presented first, and you don't get to emptiness until much later.
Yeah.
That was the other reason. That
So
has helped me a lot.
Yeah. So in different contexts, they'll maybe emphasize one or the other. Even in the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, it's not always clear which one they're talking about. Dance and trample on the head of this butcher. Which one is it? It's kind of like both. Yeah, it's got to be the self-grasping, and it's got to be the self-centeredness. So. Okay? Yeah.
Last week when you were talking about the conventional valid cognizer and the probing awareness,
Uh-huh.
I was wondering how does that relate to eventually the two Buddha bodies? Or does the probing awareness transform into the wisdom Dharmakaya?
Oh, so when I was talking about the conventional valid cognizer and the probing awareness, how does that relate to the two Buddha bodies? It doesn't really, except the only way it would be relayed is the conventional valid cognizer is, discerning conventionalities. It's the whole side of method and wisdom, which they correlate. It's just this whole series of correlations, whereas method is more the conventional, dealing with conventionalities. Wisdom is more dealing with ultimate truths. And so in that way, but other than, one transforming into the other, no, I wouldn't. Yeah.
There's one more from last week's class. So also, actually, I think what you just explained too about overcoming self-centered thought is like the verse that we went over last week with, the medicine for the different diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, but this question was relating to how you were talking about this difference between how we're not looking for inherent existence, we're looking to see how objects conventionally exist.
Uh-huh.
Remember you mentioned a while ago about the distinction there, and I just want to clarify the import of making that distinction.
You said last week when we're looking for the object to be negated, we're not looking for an inherently existent
Object.
No, we're investigating, when in the 4-point analysis, you're not looking for the inherently existent object. You're saying if the self inherently existed, then it would have to be either inherently one or inherently different. That's the way to phrase it.
And is the reason for that because if you start off by saying, by looking for an inherently existent object, then that sort of implies
There's
that
no
you're
such-
inherently.
Well, you know, how can you look for an inherently existent object when it doesn't exist?
Because we're grasping at it, so we have to identify
Yeah, but
the
that,
object that appears.
yeah, we identify the object that appears to us, but then to see if the I exists as it appears, then we have to see, you know, if the I is inherently existent, it would have to be inherently one or inherently different.
You can't prove,
You don't say if the inherently existent I were existent, it would be inherently one or inherently different. You say if the I were inherently existent, it would be inherently one or inherently
you
different.
can't prove a non-existent to be
Yeah,
not finding it. But what you're doing there is you're looking at you're actually getting clear on your misapprehension, aren't you? How you're misapprehending it. It would have to be like this.
yeah, if such, as the thing is,
The misconception is what.
as I am holding this thing to exist, if it really existed this way, then these other things should also be so.
Right.
And these other things are not so.
So you have to.
So then,
It's a misapprehension.
yeah, then you have to say, then I'm misapprehending things.
That's the
Yeah.
distinction between looking for an inherently existent object and what we're trying to really do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're investigating how the I exists. We're not investigating how the inherently existent I exists, because the inherently existent I doesn't exist at all.
But we are looking for it in the practice.
I said what I said already. Think about it. Okay? Think about it. Otherwise, I'm just going to repeat what I said before. Okay? Other questions?
Well, it's just a thought, and somebody correct me on this, but it seems to me that Jeffrey also addressed this with the thought that if you're looking, you know, you already had the idea of what you're looking for, you're not even going to look. Like you've defeated your own purpose if you think, oh, this inherently existent thing, I'm going to go find this inherently existent thing, then there's no energy really in your searching. But if you're looking for how the object actually exists, then you have a lot to plug, a lot to plumb. But it's a different kind of internal approach. I think that's what he was talking about. Anyway.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. See for your own experience if that's true. Yeah.
And last week you were saying that probing awareness can be conceptual or non-conceptual.
Conceptual, yeah.
And I was trying to grok probing awareness that's non-conceptual.
Okay, so programming awareness that's non-conceptual is a mind that perceives emptiness directly. Yeah? Okay.
So someday.
So when it's conceptual, you're kind of going through the arguments and, you know, doing some analysis. But then at a certain point, it goes beyond the conceptual process.
The problematic word for me is that probing part of it. 'Cause
Yeah.
It seems so conceptual.
Yeah. Well, it's like the word analytical awareness. That even sounds more conceptual, doesn't it? Analytical awareness. And yet, analysis can also be non-conceptual. Depends on how you're translating these terms. Yeah.
And last week you were saying something very interesting that Sarah J. says that you have to have serenity to start onto the path of accumulation.
For Bodhisattva, yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember why they say that? What reasons they give for that?
What reason they give for it? I don't know. You just have to.
Because they said so.
Yeah, I don't know what reason they would give for it and what reason somebody would give for you don't have to have it. You know, maybe they would say, well, you know, you would, in order to have stable bodhicitta, then you would need to have serenity. Maybe they would give that reason. That could be a reason. But then why wouldn't the other people agree with them?
Yeah.
Because they probably say, well, no, you don't need actual serenity to have stable bodhicitta. What you need is, complete dedication to other sentient beings.
Is there a question about serenity,
Uh-huh.
which is calm abiding?
Uh-huh.
So is that in the form realm?
Okay, serenity,
Access concentration?
serenity covers a lot of different things. You have serenity, the first time you attain serenity, that is the access to the first jhana. So the first jhana is a form realm mind. This is like the access level before you have it. Your 5 hindrances have been suppressed, but the 5 concentration factors aren't real stable yet. This is the Theravada explanation of it. Okay, so it's preliminary to the actual first concentration. But serenity you have all through the, yeah.
Because I was reading in Jin Lamripa, and he said that access...
Gen Lamrimpa. Gen.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. And he was saying that access concentration is part of the form realm.
Yeah, it's preliminary to the form realm. Yeah. Sometimes I call it neighboring concentration, You're in the hood. Yeah. Gen. Yeah. It's a hard G, even though it's spelled G-E-N. Anything else? Okay. So next week we will continue. Okay. And maybe we'll finish chapter 8.